Welcome to the Dr. Erin Show. May you live your truth. Hello and welcome, you guys. I am so excited today for this deep conscious conversation. So as you guys know, if you are on my podcast, I have a daily Dr. Erin, which is an 11-minute inspirational morning talk where we connect to universal law, know the truth, and get us into our day in right mind. And then if you follow me also on the Dr. Erin Show, we talk a lot more about universal laws, reprogramming the subconscious mind in the 4 areas of life, in your money and in your health and in your relationship and in your creative expression. But this right here is my favorite, which is having conversations about awakening. And I think it's important as spiritual leaders or anyone doing the work out there to have the conversations with other people that are successful, that have had, that aren't looked at kind of like insane people that that have seen through the veil in the universe. I think it's important to bring on people that look like normal people, that have incredible stories of awakening. And so that's really the intention of this show today. So I am so proud to introduce Cloe Luv, who is a music mogul. She is a mom. She has her MPA and her MBA, and she basically works with all types of clients. She's a serial entrepreneur, I can relate, and she works with corporate services, entertainment services. She's basically a badass, let's just face it. And she's also a boss lady. So thank you so much for taking the time today. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
So where in the world are you today?
Today I am preparing for a private industry event tonight, a music industry event tonight, and I'm just running around doing some last minute preparations.
And what does that look like? What's that event tonight?
So Ryan Leslie, he's a music producer and an artist, is having a private listening event, as well as I believe he's launching an app. So I was invited to that with my husband, who's also my artist and producer. And
So cool.
I'm very curious to see.
Don't you think it's cool, like what's happening in the industry as far as like, we had the whole, of course, online and social media and all that stuff's so important, but it seems to me like every day there are so many events where people want to meet up. Like last night I went to Michelle Williams' event, actually up at this really cool penthouse hilltop workspace. And, it's just cool how people are coming together to build brands, be conscious, network, and hang out with cool peeps.
Absolutely. I feel the same way.
So, I want to dive in today about your actual awakening. And I hear that you're writing a book about your awakening. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. So it's so funny because my understanding or my overstanding now is so different from who I was. It's the same person, but it's just being able to see through your third eye in a sense. And when you see things clearly, you understand how much is programmed into your life, and you realize it's not learning new behavior, but it's unlearning taught behaviors.
Amen,
And
sister, right?
it's taught mentalities and even your eyes. For example, your eyes cannot see. Your eyes capture pictures, and your brain tells your eyes what that is. So you're literally blind in a sense. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And it's retraining the brain to understand perspective so that it can train your eyes to compute the pictures of what it's seeing, or communicate to your eyes what it's really seeing.
I love that.
And
so take us back though. Because I think that all the truths and all the takeaways are important, but I think how people relate is by our actual stories, like what actually happened. Like, were you raised in a religious home, or did you have faith before your awakening? Or just because someone has faith does not mean that they've necessarily had an awakening, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a great question. So I wasn't raised particularly in a religious home, but my grandmother and my mom grew up Pentecostal. So I've always believed in God, and I was taught to grow up believing in Jesus. And the devil is bad, angels, heaven, hell. So I grew up under those guidelines. And my mom came to this country when she was 15, so she didn't really stick to those religious guidelines, although she told us and she tried to take us to church sometimes. I wasn't like one of those kids who had to go to Sunday school, Wednesday night prayer, and all of that stuff. I literally can count how many times I've been to church in my childhood. So at a point in my life with my business, I realized that nothing that I did, I couldn't keep a dollar in my hand. So I had
Mm,
all this great success. We were making all this good money. We had celebrities coming in, great accounts. Our music was going out. Our artists were being booked for shows. And then one day it's just like it all dried up. It,
wow.
it seemed like instantly overnight. And no matter what I did, I couldn't keep a dollar in my hand. So I stepped back and I said, something supernatural has to be happening.
Hmm.
And I'm not a conspiracy theory person, and I'm not the type of person who don't take accountability if I'm doing something wrong. But when I really sat back and looked at it, and I said, this doesn't make sense. Everything is being followed down to the T. Everything that you can do in marketing and business, I'm doing everything right that I've continued to do, but things just are not, something is wrong. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like something else is fighting me.
Hmm.
But I wasn't awoke yet. So I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't know what that what that looked like. You know what I mean? I just knew something was off, but I didn't know to the depths of what that something was. And a prophet came for me. I
Mm-hmm.
had never seen this man in my life. I had never, and oh, so when I started going to church, because my recording studios were robbed. So I
Ah,
started going to church, and I ended up going to church because one particular day, at least 8 people asked me to go. So I said to myself, all right, well, the Most High has a message for me today. I don't think it matters where I go as long as I go for the message.
right.
So I went, and the pastor was like, oh, the person who robbed your place, and I never told him that I got robbed.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, it's someone in your circle, and they knew that that wasn't by chance what happened to you.
He wasn't your
Because
typical pastor.
he
He
wasn't
was
your
tapped
typical
in
pastor. He's
for
a
sure.
prophet. Yeah,
Hmm.
he was a prophet. He can prophesize. And I went for that message that day. I didn't continue. My mom was helping a client find, she does real estate. She was helping a client find a apartment. And I had gotten to a point where I was losing my mind. Like literally. I started hallucinating and seeing like myself. I can't explain it, but it's like it looked at one point where myself was sitting across from me speaking to me.
Wow.
And I remember feeling, oh, this is it for me. You know what I mean? I've completely lost my mind.
Hmm.
Um, I'm done, and I didn't suffer with like mental illness or anything like that. Like I've never had any issues. This all just hit me out of nowhere overnight. And the gentleman said to my mom, you need to bring your daughter to me because tomorrow would be too late. And I remember feeling that day, I wasn't suicidal, but I didn't care if tomorrow came or not
I know
because I
that
was just
feeling.
over
Hmm.
everything I was
Hmm.
feeling. And he came and he prayed with us. He prayed with myself, my husband, and my mom. And he explained to us about people's energies and how important it is to keep our energy safe.
Hmm.
And what had happened was people who are around us, even though they smiled in our face, they envied my relationship with my husband. They envied the things I was doing in my business. And he had told us, but don't worry, you don't have to look for them because they will start to show themselves. And without a doubt, within the next month, if we had 50 people on the team, it was down to 10.
Hmm.
Everyone just started showing their true colors outside of that. So that was my first awakening to understanding things past the carnal that can manifest into your carnal reality.
Hmm.
And so on and so forth. As I opened up my mind to this understanding, literally people would walk up to myself and my husband on the street and deliver messages. and very specific, not generalized messages like someone from the other side is calling you. I'm talking about people would walk up to us and give names, specific names of things that was happening around us. And they would always tell us, but don't worry, your destiny is XYZ, or you're going here. This is what's going to happen. So when things look a certain way, don't let it break you down. So what I understood was the universe and the Most High giving you that reassurance, because we all have the right to make decisions, and a decision can change the course of your destiny. People think that, oh, well, I was written a bad hand, or if my destiny is this, that, then it's going to be. But no, if I do something, God forbid, today or tomorrow that ends my life and I never got into that destiny, then it was a choice that I made that distinction in how it ended.
It's very well
So
said.
yeah, so we kept getting these reassurances from people to the point where it was almost a little scary because there were people, and the thing about it, there were people of all different races and backgrounds. It wasn't just Christian people. So
Fascinating.
even though I grew up Christian, we had pundits who are Indian holy men,
Mm-hmm.
particularly them, they started to come and deliver messages, very specific messages. We had Muslim, I mean, there were so many
Mm-hmm.
different backgrounds, which also opened my mind to a bigger understanding of religion in a whole being a pinhole or a box to spirituality. So
Right.
I didn't want to be pinholed in a box of religion. I understood at that point it wasn't about going to church and being religious, but it was about being spiritually healthy. And in that spirituality, there's an acceptance that you can be, I can learn from this person, I can learn from that person, because if the heart is pure and the gift is there, it doesn't matter the category that they put themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
If the heart is pure and the gift is there. So,
I agree. You know, it's I think it's so I think this is I just want to say thank you so much for just being so vulnerable. And I call it coming out of the spiritual closet because it's kind of scary, especially like someone who you that probably I would imagine a lot of your community is Jesus fans. I'm a Jesus fan,
yeah,
but
yeah, me too.
and it's scary to talk about anything other than Jesus, right? And
Absolutely.
and I think it's really important. I feel like it's so important to share our stories because it opens people up for possibility. And then, like, wait a
Hmm.
second. So, if she was somebody that came from a Jesus background and she had this experience and she still believes in Jesus, but she also
Hmm.
believes in, all this other stuff that, oh, maybe there's something more going on here.
More
And,
out there.
right?
Absolutely.
And it's important also to not just hear spiritual stories of, Burning Man people and people that take,
Hmm.
ayahuasca and this stuff. Like, I want it to be like you can wear high heels and have spiritual awakening. Like,
Absolutely.
it's
It
so
doesn't come with a
important.
certain thing. And I'm so
No.
glad you said that, because I posted a picture of me the other day and I'm like, I have bright lipstick on and I have on like urban couture clothes. And I'm like, corporate doesn't look like a particular thing. Don't think because I am a serial entrepreneur and I am successful that I'm going to drink my tea with my pinky out. I'm going to be in all black pantsuits all the time,
Right.
or it doesn't look like a particular thing. So don't judge the book by the cover.
That's
And that's
right.
important that you said that. And that's why a lot of people shy away from both religion and spirituality, because they believe that you have to look like this or act like, and that's so far from the truth. But that's created within the boundaries of religion.
Mm-hmm.
um, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I cannot say I'm religious anymore. And I think that the church prepares you,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's just like anything else. If you play a game, if you read a book, it's a chapter, but you're supposed to go to the next level. I
Mm-hmm.
think the church and not just the Catholic Church, but the mosque, the temples. I think they all prepare you for the bigger understanding that there's more to life than us. I think that's what the first basis of it is. So which other way you come into it, it's still the opening of your mind that there is more to life than us. Because even when you read amongst the books, the majority of the stories are different, but just someone may not eat pork and someone may not eat beef, and someone believes it's just very small variations that separate them.
Right.
But
And it's perception, right? Like the I am the way, as Jesus Christ
hmm
said, it doesn't necessarily mean that I am the only way. Jesus is the I am consciousness, that I am consciousness that's
exactly.
one with everything. And so it's really just
Absolutely.
a perception shift. It's the same
It
teaching.
is.
It's just so funny, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think that I said this to someone yesterday. Perspective changed the definition of something.
Hmm.
Perspective literally changes what something becomes because your perspective of it is your reality. So when I read the Bible when I was younger versus me saying, okay, I've seen life differently and let me read it now, it's a completely different story. The
Hmm.
same words have different meanings, which ultimately changes the story. The part that people say, well, it's blasphemous. I used to ask my mom all the time, Zeus, Hades, Ares, and Athena, where do these people, they had to have been seeing something for these people to believe, but they're saying it's blasphemous that they're calling these people gods. And then when I read into it, it says that I am the most high God, which is an
Thank you.
acknowledgement that
Thank
there are
you.
other entities that exist.
That's
So
right.
you wouldn't have had to say the most high if it was the only one. So I'm like, it's just like anything in else. And I think we build everything in life off of that same council. You have the Most High God, who would be the president, but maybe there's a vice president, there's a supervisor, there's a chairman, a CEO. There are other entities that are put in place to oversee because it's billions of us.
Hmm.
But I am the Most High. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, completely. But also, I feel like I honor people for wherever they're at, and I honor people's, because it's really a lot of it's semantics for people. And so I just want to honor, I don't want to make a religion wrong also, just because I feel like there's so many different, you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like there's so many different relationships with that religion for each person.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't make it wrong or right. I do think it's a platform, but I think with anything and anything in life, it's a platform that is supposed to help you ascend into something else. So I think when you ascend into it, I believe that intelligence is a part of a conscious library that we're all connected to. So I do believe that we can tap in mentally and learn what someone else has learned through that conscious library.
There's no
I
question. I mean, the supernatural abilities are, people go, well, why do you want to meditate or why do you want to do this? Like,
Mhm.
are you kidding me? Like, do you know the superpowers it turns on? Do you know
Exactly,
the highs that you get
exactly.
off of this natural stuff? I mean, it's so profound. So I want to hear the rest of your story, though. So here you are. You
hmm
have come to a place where you realize that you can't keep money. You've had,
hmm
someone rob you. You have had
hmm
prophecy. You're walking down the streets. People are giving you messages. All these things are
hmm
happening. And then what?
So then I'm here with all this information and all this stuff, but it doesn't look like life is changing fast enough. So I'm like, well, what does this mean? Because, okay, I've been told that I'm going to be richer than I can imagine, but every day I'm looking for the billions. You know what I mean? And it's in a point where, yeah, I'm living great, but I haven't ascended to where I want to be or what my goals are. So I'm still trying to figure out what's going on here. And for a while, I couldn't keep money for a while, even through. So I went through a spiritual walk of like cleansing. Some people use sage, some people use certain incense to kind of like rid certain energies from you or to protect yourself with different things that you meditate or you cover yourself with. So I went through those changes of purifying my energy, purifying people that were around me. And then I got to a point where I said, I would keep going to this person or that person. Hey, what should I do next? What do I need to do next? Right? And I got to a point where I said, well, God forbid something happens to this person. I don't want to be dependent on my spirituality from someone else. So I meditated and I prayed for my own enlightenment. I meditated to be shown the way on how I can manifest things for myself, how I can have understandings to foresee things before it happens. I prayed for the gift of prophecy and the knowledge of Samson. That was my prayer.
So, and that's a great
And
point. I think it's a very important point to
mhm,
showcase and to highlight because I believe if there's a teacher out there for anyone that's listening and they preach that their way is the only way or you need them or even a psychic
mhm,
that I think is dangerous and I believe the only real
mhm,
teacher or guru anyone should be seeking is someone that's teaching you how to embody this work yourself.
Exactly. And I had gotten to that point, and I met someone who said to me, literally, start with 10 minutes a day of meditation. He said, I can tell you, oh, if you give me $10,000 this, or if you go buy that, that. But he said, literally, get those little white candles, six for $1, put a glass of water, lukewarm or cool, and just focus on it and meditate and clear your mind for 10 minutes of the day. Start with that. Start with 10 minutes and then work up from there. And you'd go from clearing your mind to focusing on a particular thought for that whole duration of what you want it to manifest into. And you'll see how life changes for you. So you can do this for yourself. You don't need to ask anybody this. And I think the process of me, and the people that came into my life did help. But I think the process of me going through all these different things, I remember one time I'm like, okay, this one's telling me this one's telling me to do this. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard. The Bible said that we are gods on earth, but we will die like mortals because of our sins. But if I'm a God on earth, then I said, well, I need to figure out how to tap into the God in me.
That's right.
And when I answered that question, when I asked that question, there's no way to explain it. There's no particular answer, but you know it when it's been heard because of the things that start to align and manifest around you. And I feel like that's when you have your awakening, because as you start to notice that there's no longer coincidence, there is only alignments,
Yeah.
then you can start to understand and learn the patterns and see things. Every time something good was about to happen to us, something bad tried to throw us off. And it's so obvious now that it's almost elementary and a joke for us.
Well, and
Something bad tried to manifest and take that or rob us from it because we used to fall for it. You lose your temper, you don't know better, but now we just let it go, and literally the next week something huge will happen.
and it's also
Mhm.
in the first chapter of my book, I talk a lot about that serendipitous space that you can be in when you're in the zone, I call it. But we have to know there's
Mhm.
another term, it's called zemblanity. And it's
Mhm.
actually like the negative things that happen. And sometimes we think, oh, that must not be a coincidence, but everything is a coincident of the consciousness. So even those
Absolutely.
those bad things are just another projection of what's going on at the soul level. So when you
Mhm.
clear up and, I love that you said a counterintuitive process because I 100% agree. It's really releasing the programming that we have. And when we do that, we get more and more into what feels like serendipity, but it's really also that we've cleared up those limiting beliefs that are causing the bad things to
Absolutely.
happen in our life as well, right?
Absolutely. We're dropping the programming.
That's
We're
right.
dropping the things that keep us in one space, because if everyone is able to tap into the levels that we can go, it's a scary thing for government. It's a scary thing for people in control, dictators. It's a scary thing. So they have to put these things in place in order to control the masses. It literally makes sense when you look at it from that point of view. There's more of us than they are people in power.
Hmm.
So it's important that they keep those veils over people's eyes, because it would be harder for them to do some of the things that they do to a whole nation of conscious,
Right.
open-minded, unveiled people. You know what I mean? So I get it on both parts, and I'm just glad that I'm no longer on the sheep side,
Hmm.
and I'm grateful.
So we keep cutting off on your story, but I think it's kind of profound because we're kind of diving into an aspect of a
Mhm.
distinction within your story. But then so
Mhm.
now you've gone, okay, I'm meditating every day. The veil
Mhm.
comes off. You begin to
Mhm.
really tap into the God within, and
Mhm.
now what?
So then we were at the brink of, like, okay, things started coming in slowly. But we believe it or not, a guy walked up to my husband and said things are gonna change ar around August. Something big is gonna happen that's gonna reset a lot of stuff for you. And I kid you not, um a post office person came to my house and said, "Here, someone told me to give this to you." It had no return address or anything, and it was $10,000.
What?
I swear to you, it was $10,000. We sat with it for like 3 weeks waiting for someone to come for it. We didn't know. We didn't know. There was no way to get back to this person, or even to send a thank you, or no, nothing. And this was over 2 years ago.
Whoa.
That $10,000 allowed us to invest into the music that put us back on the map. And I tell people all the time, you don't always know the answers of how. You just need to know that you need it, and the universe and the Most High will align it for you and bring it somehow. And that's what a miracle is. A miracle is something that cannot be explained, cannot be foreseen, and cannot be planned because you couldn't plan that.
Yeah, we call it outlining in my line of work as a New
Mhm,
Thought minister. We call it outlining. That if you try and control the how or figure out the how,
mhm.
that's outlining. You're not allowing the abundance and the brilliance and the miracle of the universe to deliver it. So you
Exactly.
need to open up your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly. So that happened, and it kicked us back on top with the promo and everything we were able to do. A&E came and shot the Notorious B.I.G. story. They shot part of it at my recording studio, so that's out on Tidal now. That was on the A&E network. So we became a part of history with that because Faith Evans premiered The King and I. Um, there. So many hits came out from my studio in the last year and a half that went platinum. And the
Wow.
last kid that I was just working with, Blackway, I A&R'd a record for him that got him signed to Republic. So things just started manifesting, but then bad things tried to start to happen. Like people would try to do certain things, and we would just, we don't care. Things that we would feed into before when we were at a lower state in our
Hmm.
consciousness doesn't really anger me the way that it used to before. And then it just
Right.
kind of disappears. Yeah, it literally just kind of loses its power and disappear. And currently we're looking for a second space because I opened up a nonprofit. So in the day, we actually teach these arts programs, and we do a micro society, and we do these arts programs from recording, fashion, DJing with high school students in the 11th and 12th grade. And then the evenings, we will use the recording studio for industry
Right.
events.
And you have
So
Women with Voices. Is that the nonprofit you're talking about?
that's one of the nonprofits. The other nonprofit, that's one of the nonprofits. That's a women's empowerment
Hmm.
nonprofit. The other nonprofit is Micro Moguls. That's for the students. And
Okay,
then
got
we
it.
have NYC Clean Up Nice, which is a homeless initiative to try to cure homelessness or to try to help homelessness in NYC. So
Wow.
the Women with Voices empowerment, women's empowerment, was actually launched March 31st, and I launched it with a award ceremony and gala. We had 150 people come out, and it was amazing. So since then, I was able to get a fantastic board, and we just got two spaces donated to us in Brooklyn where we'll be doing monthly workshops, we'll be hosting events, and we'll be functioning as our headquarters. So I'm really excited about that. And I just stay and meditate within the positivity. And my first thing was, oh, I needed a building. I needed this much money for a space, or I needed this. You know what I mean? On my proposal again, I felt I needed this money to get this space.
Hmm.
And then I said, I just need a space. However it comes, it comes. And when I said that, a board member joined and said she wanted her contribution to be the two spaces that she owns.
Wow,
So
right?
again, when you don't try to control the narrative of how it's going to come, but just put what you need, you allow the universe to work how it needs to work to bring you what you need. Not what you're asking for, but what you need.
Preach it, right? I mean, it's so good. It's so fascinating. And so you have all these different endeavors you're up to. What would you say is your main mission? Because you have like a, plethora of so many different creations you're up to.
Um, I'm sorry, that last part chipped in. Can you repeat
What
it?
what would you say is your actual mission? Could you distill it down into a sentence or two?
Oh, yeah. So my actual mission, it variates. So one of the things I want to showcase is I want to be the next youngest Black billionaire. That's
Hmm,
my goal.
right? Great goal to
Um,
have.
yeah, she's 41 right now. She's from Africa and it was inherited. My mission with Women with Voices is to unite women of all different creeds, colors, and backgrounds and bring us together to support and uplift each other. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? It sounds very generic and cliche. Well, with my event, there were women there from the ages of 18 to the ages of 60 something.
Hmm.
Everyone was in a different working class. There were some that were entrepreneurs, there were some that were working class people, there were some stay-at-home moms, but there was no judgment, there was no levels to I'm better than you or not. And no matter what anyone was going through, we were able to support them and see them where they were at and be there for them and network. And a lot of people made connections through my event. We honored some women for their stories. They told their stories and inspired other women in the room. And I created an online platform that's kind of like Facebook, but it's for women by women
Hmm.
that we can join in and continue on an online platform, and it's completely free.
Right. I think that's a
So,
fascinating conversation because I was just talking about this because I was at that Michelle Williams event last night, and quite frankly, it was all African American women. There was two white girls there, if you will, and a
mhm,
lot of events I go to. I spoke at a Boss Babe event 2 weeks ago,
mhm,
and there
mhm,
was probably four African American girls and all white girls there, right? So it was like,
mhm,
what's
mhm.
what's the deal, women? Let's all get together. And so it's
Exactly.
time. It's time to
It's
not
time.
only we want equality in all areas. Let's have equality
Mhm,
in our own, getting
mhm,
together in these women events. And there's been so many women events popping up, and people ask me to speak
mhm,
and just come and all this stuff, and it's
mhm,
so cool. But I'm finding there's like different genres, which is okay. That's fine.
mhm.
But at the same time, I've not found one that's really bringing all those
A good
different
mixture.
demographics. Yeah, yeah,
And I was so proud that mine showcased so many different demographics. And one of the press members asked me, like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, it's a part of my mission statement, and I
right,
was just very proud that my mission statement showcased in my work. And I knew I didn't want to make it something that was just for Black women, because I felt that if we're talking about real support and equality, that it cannot be non-inclusive for all women. And my message to women is that we are the minority. It's not about color. It's about the ways that we are oppressed as women and the
right.
ways that we are, overlooked. So I was speaking to one of my board members who's white, and I was telling her, I said, no one really stands up and says, we say Black power for, Black women's rights, Asian women's rights, and, Indian women's rights because of all the oppressions that are known
Mm-hmm.
historically.
Yeah,
But no one really stands up for and says, white women's rights and white power is attributed to a group of people who oppressed other people. And I'm like,
right.
that's really not fair, because it puts a lot of white women in a stance where they're not in a space where they don't feel like they can talk out and be proud of who they are,
Yeah.
because they're going to automatically be looked as racist. And I said, we all have to stand up for you guys. We
Thank
all
you
have
for
to stand up
saying
because
that.
you're my sister.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I told her, I said, the stereotypes that are put on white women that nobody's addressed, where a man from another race would be like, oh, I don't want to deal with a Black woman's attitude, or a Spanish girl's attitude, so I'm just going to get me a white woman. And that's so disrespectful, to just feel like white women are people who are going to automatically be submissive and take your shit. So I'm
Hmm.
like, there's so much stuff that white women go through that no one's speaking up for. And I brought it back to slavery. I said, slavery was something that people are saying, the white man has oppressed. And I said, yes, but they have not oppressed anyone more than they did the white woman. And I'm going to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery was something that was put into place by the white man. The white man then turned around to the white woman and said, even though we don't think that these people are intelligent, they are ignorant, and they're less than humans, we would still rather them vote than you because they're still men. If that
Right.
wasn't like a biggest slap or spit in the face, I don't know what could be. And I'm like,
Hmm.
no one's speaking up about that. And I feel like that's where the stigma started of being submissive or just taking whatever, because of what was
Mm.
done by the white man to the white woman. And I'm telling them, you may think that they have more rights, or they're treated so much better. It's just like maybe a 5% margin. If you look at the records of what's being paid, a white woman may be paid 5 or 10% more than a Black woman, but a Black man or a white man is going to be paid 40 to 50% more than the both of us.
Ugh.
So it's not it's not as far as you think it is, and we have to come together and collectively understand that we have to come together as a minority race, the female race, and
Right.
push forward. And that's what my organization has to do. It's People are so afraid to speak race because there's so much that comes with it. People are so afraid to be called certain things. There's so much conversation that's not being had because it's so touchy. But we're gonna have to just shake that up and make the
Mm-hmm.
people uncomfortable, because there's no growth in comfort, and there's no comfort in growth. And that's what my initiative with that Women's with Voices is. And I'm so grateful to have a diverse board. We have someone that's Moroccan, Middle Eastern. We have white girls. We have black girls. We currently don't have anyone Asian on the board, which I would love
Mm-hmm.
to have someone, but just not to fill a demographic, but someone who's going to bring stuff to the table and also explain things about your culture that we don't know, and bring that to the table and
Mm-hmm.
show us how to come together and bring enlightenment through the world about what's going on in your culture. One of the initiatives we want to do is we want to address those stereotypes we just talked about by race, and then bring it all together and understand that this is still just one woman's problem. So if someone's over here saying that, oh, white women are this and white women are that, it's still every woman's problem. So we're going to all come out and talk about it. We're
That's
going to
right.
all support that initiative. If
Mm-hmm.
it's black women that's being looked at as a, we're going to all talk about it, white, black, and different, and we're all going to come out and we're going to support that. So that's how we showcase, and we make a difference in just saying that. We're coming out as a unit for every stereotype, for every race, but we're coming out as one race.
That's so profound, Chloe. Honestly, I mean, it's so so needed, and thank you for saying all that. And I do agree in that as a as a white girl, I guess you'd say,
Mhm.
even though I'm really a melting pot for sure.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, it's one of those things that it's a real touchy thing. It's a real
Yeah.
touchy thing to talk about. Uh, how you feel, as
Mhm.
far as,
Mhm. Mhm.
you can't voice, as far as, because we've been so blessed in so many ways that it's hard to
Mhm.
really think about something like, having our voting rights be like, it's just ridiculous.
Mhm.
I mean, it is really ridiculous.
Mhm.
But I agree and 100% that I think, at least as women, we need to come together as all different races, different sizes, different ages. I mean, ageism.
Mhm.
Talk about something that is gross in our culture. We have such ageism;
Mhm.
it's ridiculous. And
Mhm.
any way I can serve, any way I can collaborate, I just think that it's time. It's time. This is our
Absolutely.
time. And I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't identify as a woman, quite frankly. In my spirituality, I
Mhm.
identify as a spiritual being. I don't identify as a woman,
Mhm.
man, or whatever. However, I still feel that this is the time, and I've been chosen
Mhm.
to have this body in this lifetime. So so be it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. So we have work to do in that, in this time and in this body. And I'm very happy that you said that, because it does acknowledge the fact that we do come back, and we do, it, depending on what we're here to do our task as, we do it as that, you know?
Yep.
So I'd love to keep in contact and keep you updated on what's going on, and see how we can come together as well. And you can join the movement with us, because
Absolutely. We'll have to bring it
we
on
need,
out to
like,
LA.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
That's, we want to actually have something in LA. So we can definitely talk about that, because we've expanded to Jersey and DC so far.
I love that. That's so cool. And I just love that you've come out of your spiritual closet, and that you make no excuses. You're like, I am going to tell you my story, and this is how it is, and this
Yes.
is my experience, and this is like, it's shameless and beautiful, so gorgeous. And I would say, for me, what's cool about these interviews for me is, when I was going through my awakening, I'd have these profound things that happen within meditation and prayer, and then I'd come out and I'd read, some great philosophers' work, and I'd go, wait, they are saying the same thing as whatever I was, having insight around. And for me, these interviews are so important about awakening, because everyone says the same thing, so how can,
Yeah.
so many people across the globe, when they go through awakening, say the exact same things, because there is truth, and there is truth that comes through
Hmm.
when you are awakening. And that's the common denominator that I want in my life to go, she was the expert in awakening. She did,
Hmm.
thousands of interviews around
Hmm.
awakening, and there were common denominators, and this is what is now a scientific study, really, because when you have that many
Absolutely.
people. And it's important for people to know that you can be a boss lady, you can be fabulous, you can have material wealth, and you can be a
Absolutely.
mom, you can be all these things, and you can go through a spiritual awakening and know the God within.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yep.
And that
So,
is important.
so tell the audience where they can find you.
Okay, you can find me on Instagram at Cloe Luv, which is CloeLuv, or my website, which is cloelove.com, which is www.cloeluv.com.
And by the way, I always, and you can, ask my co-host, I am a firm believer that our names have our calling, our destiny in them. And I think your name is so beautiful. I mean, is that
Thank
your
you.
actual birth name?
No, someone gave me that name. Cloe
Mm-hmm.
Love, I think, is the green goddess. And he just felt that I was really love. And my husband gave me that name actually. He started calling me Chloe Love out of nowhere.
Yep.
And I remember asking him, "Why do you call me that?" And he was
Mm.
like, "Chloe Love is the green goddess." And I think he thought she was the green goddess of wealth, but when I looked it up, she was of like fertility and manifestation,
I
period.
love that.
And he was like, you're just so loving, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call you Chloe Love." And
So,
everyone just started calling me Chloe
right.
Love.
So that's what I consider your spiritual name. So oftentimes people will change their name once they've gone through an awakening because they have overcome their karmic debt of their lineage and they get to choose a new
Hmm.
name. So that is your
Hmm.
spiritual name. Beautiful. Gorgeous.
Thank
I
you.
love that. Okay, well have a wonderful day. Thank you again for all your
You
time.
too. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we will speak soon.